Hey guys, so I know some of you have been waiting for this review of the Very Young Catholics series, and I promise you your wait has not been in vain, because I'm now free to tell you about an amazing collaboration between Holy Heroes and the author of the Very Young Catholics series. They have just launched an online program for families, children, recommended age is 5 to 12, but I really think you go a little younger, a little older. And they are offering printable activities, interactive quizzes, videos, read aloud videos, photos, extra photos from when they were producing the books, sneak peeks as to what's coming next in the series, recipes. I mean, they just have so many amazing things put into this. So I'm going to go into more detail on that after I review the books, but I wanted to let you know about the program up front, because open enrollment is only lasting until September 29th. So from the date of this video, that gives you about 9 days. And it's not 100% sure when or if they'll be opening it again next year. So definitely want to dive into this now, but like I said, I'll go into that more later in the video. So to get started on the books themselves, I was hoping to do a, top-down video, but I don't have the equipment to set that up. So we're doing the best we can here. And I'm just going to go through the two books that I was sent and let you know what my thoughts are. So the first thing I will say about these books, and I am going to show them to you. The first thing I will say is that I really appreciate it is that they are very organic. And that was one of the author's goals, is to make the faith part of everyday life. And, the faith life of the families in these books and how it's presented, it just flows. Like, if the faith flows in and out of the storyline, and it doesn't feel forced, it doesn't feel like someone's trying to preach to you. It's just part of life. And I found that really refreshing. So I'll start with the Very Young Catholics in Iceland. This one I definitely found to be more subtle out of the two books that I had. But again, it's really powerful when you start to go into it. So in here, they start out, and the children are making up their own myths, inspired by when they're looking at the Northern Lights and different land features in Iceland. And as you know, Iceland is famous for its Icelandic sagas and the Old Norse myths, and has a real culture built around that storytelling. And she uses that culture of storytelling to then tie into the works of Tolkien, which actually we hear about when the family's parish priest is over for dinner. And, he tells the kids, hey, I heard you guys have been making up your own myths. It reminds me of my favorite author, Tolkien. And then they start talking about Tolkien, and it goes from that into the concept of how we are still called today to fight against evil. And Father brings up that, yes, and to do that, you need you need spiritual armor, and you need the sword of truth, and I give those at Mass every Sunday. And so it's those little but small but powerful seeds, and I love that approach. And then from there, though, we go into learning about some of the history of Iceland, because one of the girls is concerned, am I going to be brave enough for that? If I'm called on to fight against evil. And this was news to me, majority of the people, many if not most of the people in Iceland are descended from a very famous woman named Gudrid, far traveler. And she actually came to the New World and with the original Icelandic expeditions here, and then ended up back in Iceland and made pilgrimage to Rome. And her grandson is Saint Thorlak, who is the patron saint of Iceland. But her mother uses that family story that is also very much part of Iceland's story to tell her daughter that when the time comes, you will be brave. You will have what you need. So just everything is just woven together so beautifully. So throughout the books, you're being introduced to so many different things about the country. And again, it's just all very organically woven in. And then in the back, they go into more detail. So you have your map, and it gives you more of the history and the geology of, and the geography, and interesting facts about the people. And then for this book, it went into deeper explanations about glaciers and geysers and volcanoes. So just lots of great details about the country and about the people. Now the Kenyan book, like I said, the faith is more front and center in this book, because in this book, the young girl is preparing for her first communion. But again, things flow very organically. Like you see her in her communion class, and it was very intriguing to me because, she's in her first communion class, and you can actually read the notes that she's taken in 2 different languages in her notebook and see the depth of what she's learning about the faith. And then she's home quizzing her uncle and her grandfather about the sacraments as she gets ready for her first communion. And they're challenging each other and teasing back and forth about what they know and they don't know. And then her grandfather, they're talking about holy orders, and he shares with her about why it's so important, and apostolic succession, and the importance of holy orders. And it's just a beautiful family moment. But again, it's just very organic. It's like you could have in any family. And then on top of that, we just see, children being children. They're practicing cartwheels, they're giving piggyback rides, they're playing in the river. And so there's so much that our children can relate to in these stories and be like, oh, wow, okay, these kids are halfway around the world, but in a lot of ways, they are just like me. And then you can also see the differences as well. In the Kenyan book, my youngest, my 8-year-old, was taken with this photo, and she was like, Mom, what's going on here? And so I was able to introduce to her that the church allows for cultural elements in the Mass throughout the world. So in Africa, dance is integral part of their culture, and so it appears in the Mass. And she was just really taken by that nugget of knowledge. But between these 2 books, and these are 2 books out of a series that currently has 11 books in it. The goal is to have a book for every time zone, because the author wanted to convey that, in the Eucharist prayer of the Mass, it says, from the rising of the sun to its setting, that a perfect offering may be made to the glory of your name. And she wanted to show kids that, yes, we are worshiping God in every time zone, from the rising of the sun to its setting. And just between these 2 books, in addition to discussing the sacraments, apostolic succession, the real presence of the Eucharist, prayer communities, in addition to all of that, they also touch on history, geography, science, culture, and I went through the books and found all of these, converts and saints, language, life in urban, suburban, and rural areas of the same country. That's in the Kenyan book. Food, clothing, wildlife, all of that is touched on in these books in some way, and that's just these 2. So there are just so many opportunities, especially if you are homeschooling, or if you're looking to, or maybe your kids are in public school or parochial school and you're looking for additional supports for their faith instruction, there are so many opportunities in these books to go into further exploration or rabbit trails. And I think that's what I love so much about the Very Young Catholic Project online that Holy Heroes is putting out, because they've done the work for you. So you don't have to figure out extra activities. You don't have to go down the rabbit hole of YouTube. You know, the book lists have been reviewed by the Holy Heroes team, so you know they're good. And, you know, you can just enjoy and benefit from the knowledge and the culture and the history and the geography without having to add to your plate. So a couple of details. The open enrollment for the program, it's a monthly program, but it is not a monthly subscription. It is a one-time fee, and that gives you access all the way. So enrollment is only open until September 29th, and they might reopen it next year, but they're not sure. And even if they do, it won't be at the current prices. I did double check with Holy Heroes, and you do not have to have the books on hand to participate in this program. So when you enroll, they actually, all access levels get a free copy of one of the books in the series. I believe it's the Very Young Catholics in Togo, because that's going to be the first monthly adventure that they do. So everyone will receive that book to get started. But if you don't have the book in a particular month, that's okay. You can still benefit from all of the things that they're sharing and showing and learning about online. Also, Clara said that for those who are buying the books to go with the adventures, they're going to be splitting things up a little bit. So some months it will be very centered around the book as a spine. Other months it'll be a broader focus of geography or the faith. So I'm going to put a link in the description box below where you can go and find out more about the online program. On that same page, you can click to enroll and get your family started on a fun adventure. So I hope this video was helpful, and please feel free to leave extra questions in the comments, and I'd be happy to answer them or find the answers for you. And until next time, take care.